Well, as we know, Donald Trump is in a very comfortable position now heading into Super Tuesday next week. In fact, it might not be such a Super Tuesday. He's been so dominant. He's won primaries in Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and of course, he's beaten Nikki Haley in South Carolina. She remains his only competition, and the results from her home state of South Carolina, if they were anything to go by over the weekend, well, not sure how much longer she'll be there. Joining me now, one of my favourite segments with Andrew Bolt each week is former White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. Great to catch up with you, Sean. Super Tuesday next week. We all look forward to it, but it might not be so super.
No, tomorrow here in the U.S., we have Michigan, 55 delegates at stake. And I think you're going to see a continued domination by President Trump. Look, Nikki Haley can stay in the race if that's what she wants to do. But to your point, it's not going to be super for her. The bottom line is the math doesn't work. There's 874 delegates at stake next week. 15 states and one of our territories will all vote. At some point, the math becomes unsustainable. The reality of not being able to get to 1,215 delegates, which is what it takes, is going to become abundantly clear. The problem, frankly, is that the media here in the United States and some of the big donors and never-Trumpers want this to go on. If this was any other candidate in any other cycle, we wouldn't be having this conversation. They would have announced her dead on arrival a long time ago.
So on her, we'll get onto her funding in just a moment. What's the play here for Nikki Haley? I mean, you know this better than anybody. Is she staying in the race, looking forward to the term after, or whether Donald Trump wins or Joe Biden? Is that her long game?
The question you're asking is the perfect question that I have been doing campaigns for 30 years here in the United States. I cannot answer it. She is not running in 2028. She's not running in 2032. She has completely undermined any political capital that she had left, any standing within the party. The MAGA base of this party just, frankly, I think at this point is getting to a level of despising her. So I don't know what the answer is because it's not political. And it's not professional, meaning if you're looking to go out and turn this into some kind of speech factory where you're going to get on the corporate circuit, at some point, people just don't bring the person that got their butt kicked over and over and over again in to give the big keynote speech. I think, frankly, what this really comes down to is just a personal vendetta against Donald Trump at this point. There's no other way to see it because there's no long-term political play here. There isn't one. And so I think that she has made a determination that as long as there's gas in the tank, she's going to drive the car.
I want your view on this and take this the right way. Do Republican women not like her?
It's not women. I think that she just... The Republican base since the get-go of this primary season has made it clear that they want another Donald Trump term. And she has not, like any of the other candidates, frankly, made the case why she should be there. The thing that's really interesting on this, there was a lot of hoopla in the U.S. media coming out of Saturday night, the South Carolina primary, about how she'd gotten 40% of the vote. But let's keep in mind that South Carolina is an open primary, meaning anybody could vote in that primary. And she openly urged Democrats and independents to come and vote in the Republican primary. And apparently it worked. So to claim that somehow she has a base of support, maybe that's true, but it's certainly not within the Republican Party. Yes, there are Democrats that want to cast a protest vote against Donald Trump, and there's no contest on the other side. There's a lot of people on the independent side that maybe not like him, but this is a Republican primary to determine the Republican nominee, and she's not even courting Republicans.
Sean, put those fake Republicans to one side and using your polling experience, when she goes and when it's a presidential election one-on-one, do the Republicans that have ticked her box come to Donald Trump?
I think it's another great question. I think about 90% do. You know, the folks are going to realize that this is a binary choice. You may not like Donald Trump. You may not like some of his actions or his words or his social media posts. But at the end of the day, what this really comes down to is a choice between the 4 years that Trump put on the scoreboard when it came to his administration and the 4 years that Joe Biden has. And Andrew and I have talked about this. The reality is that whether you're talking about our domestic policy, our border, our economy, or our foreign policy, and the wars that we have now watched happen on Joe Biden's watch that stemmed, frankly, in many cases, from that failed withdrawal in Afghanistan. you can make a huge contrast. And I think voters may not like the personalities of one of the other candidates, but for the first time in my lifetime, and probably in anybody's lifetime going forward, we're going to be able to judge a record versus a record, not a hypothetical, not a bunch of promises, but 4 years of one president versus 4 years of another, and make that decision. And I can't think of a clearer contrast that exists between these two men.
I reckon that's a fantastic point. I mean, you're really basically holding up, aren't you, Sean, two mirrors, and you look in one where Donald Trump kept the border secure, and you look in the other one and you've got thousands and millions of people flooding in from the south, and you go to yourself, well, if I want America to become great again, or just be America where you have to come here the right way, then you don't vote for Joe Biden.
Absolutely. And that's it. And the thing is, when you do a campaign, 99% of the time, it's hypothetical. It's, I will promise you this, I will do this, I support this. In this case, and that's why I'm saying for the first time in my lifetime, and probably the last time in my lifetime, you will have the record of a former president going against the incumbent president, and you can contrast every single aspect of what should be important to voters: safety, the economy, foreign policy. And there is no clearer of a contrast. And you can't argue, you're not going to hear these candidates going up and, well, I would do this and I would do that. The voters can honestly look at the record and compare border to border, economy to economy, foreign policy to foreign policy.
Energy is the other one, of course. I mean, Donald Trump had the US energy stitched up, mate. I mean, you were producing more oil than you could use.
You meant that in terms of the industry, which I totally agree. I thought you meant in terms of the person, which I would also agree.
Well, both, mate, both.
Exactly.
Sean, do you buy the Democrats' spin that the Democrats want Trump to run because they believe that Biden can still beat him? Who believes that?
Well, look, they have two choices. I think no matter who we put up with the record that he has, we could beat him. I think it's going to be Donald Trump, and he will beat him. And the problem is, I think that there's two issues. Number one, the polls are what they are in the battleground states. There's 8 states that this election is going to be decided on. And in every single one of them right now, Donald Trump beats Joe Biden. And frankly, he only needs to win, a few of them. But the other issue is this. The biggest issue that Joe Biden has is his age, and it's not a number. It's his mental acuity and his physical prowess, and both are something that you cannot fix. There's no campaign in the world that can fix it. And all these Democratic strategists run around and say he should get out there more. And the reality is he can't get up the short stairs to Air Force One. Where do you want him to go? He can't go anywhere. That's the problem. And for these armchair quarterbacks who like to say the campaign should get him out further, I would argue where? Get him where? Unless it's in a recliner chair, it's not going to go well.
Sean, great to catch up with you, mate. Thanks a lot. That's Sean Spicer.
I'm glad to see you. Thank you. See you soon.